So like I mentioned before, when we practice the deity, the creation stage, there are 3 points. It is to clearly visualize the form, to recollect the natural purity, and to cultivate firm pride. So there is great qualities in visualizing the deity clearly, and also to understand the pure qualities of the deity. So there is a great benefit in doing that, but the most important of these 3 is to cultivate divine pride, the firm pride of having a certainty within that I am actually the deity. So one must look inside one's own mind until one finds a certainty that one acknowledges one's true nature of actually being the deity. And so how is the deity existing within one's own mind? How is one the deity? As Guru Rinpoche had said, the actual deity is bodhicitta. So if you have given rise to bodhicitta, then you actually become the deity. Of a person, the body is not most important. It is most important is the mind. It is the life force. And the life force of the deity is love. So if you understand that, then you have understood a very great meaning. So in our activities, we say that we perceive all male beings as Chenrezig and the females as Taram. There's a prayer where we say that. And we perceive everything that appears, all our perceptions, pure in nature, as the deity. So that comes from our inner perception. If we think that, if you are fixating on the external appearance and think, so if I have to see all males as Chenrezig, then I actually must see them in the form of Chenrezig, they must look like Chenrezig, then one is mistaken. One must understand the essence of Chenrezig. He is an embodiment of bodhicitta. So all the deities are an embodiment of bodhicitta. And if there is a person who has given rise to the altruistic mind, who has great love and compassion for sentient beings, then that, and also has cultivated that pure view, then that person is Chenrezig or is Taram. So when one has given rise to such a mind, then one will be able to work for the benefit of sentient beings extensively. So that is the nature of the deity, and when you cultivate firm pride, you must not have any doubts within your mind, thinking that you are not actually the deity, because you are endowed with Buddha nature, and that is the nature of the deity. It is the Buddha nature, the cause for enlightenment. Now we are just like the children of the Buddha. And if we give rise to self-grasping, then we will not recognize as being the deity, our Buddha nature. But if we give rise to the altruistic mind, then we will actually, the Buddha nature will reveal itself. So the difference between the altruistic mind and self-grasping must be understood. So when we visualize ourselves as a deity, you should think, if I have given rise to bodhicitta within my mind, I actually am the deity, I possess Buddha nature. Then the deity is actually established within my own mind. And then you can be free of any doubts and can gain confidence, trust in yourself. And then naturally all the afflictive emotions will disappear. So when you practice the deity, we practice the union of emptiness and compassion, and if you look inside your own mind as you practice the deity and you give rise to the union of emptiness and compassion, then there is no doubt that you are the deity, even if someone were to say you are not. You gain confidence in yourself. So that is the nature of the deity. And so when we look in the world, things appear pure and other things appear impure. The Buddha had said sentient beings are temporarily stained by adventitious stains. Adventitious means that they are in the nature of change momentarily. So one moment one may give rise to bodhicitta, and then again that changes and one gives rise to afflictive emotions. They are adventitious stains that temporarily obscure Buddha nature. So from understanding that we are endowed with Buddha nature, and all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature, we can cultivate a pure view, and one must gain this confidence, this certainty within one's own mind. If you can cultivate that within your own mind, then you will be able to cultivate pure view for all other beings. And so then when afflictive emotions appear, you will see them as a temporary appearance, lacking any true existence. So it is not thinking, oh, this afflictive emotion is real, this is how it really is. This grasping will disappear, just like understanding that the nature of ice actually is water. And when you understand that, when you see everything from the perspective of great purity, then your mind will be very much at ease. So through the power of that powerful view, one realizes the union of appearance and emptiness. Appearance and emptiness means that one does not grasp at any appearing forms. And if one doesn't grasp at any appearing forms, then one will also not grasp at the concrete reality, the true reality of self and others. Then there is the union of sound and emptiness. That is not to grasp at any sounds that appear. And then there is the union of awareness and emptiness, the appearing thoughts being awareness. So these Maya are these three Vajras. Milarepa had said, when you understand this point, then very easily, free from any doubt, having taken refuge in the three jewels, you will have the confidence that you actually are the deity. So the real deity is bodhicitta, and that arises from one's own mind. So if you look inside your own mind and you see you have given rise to bodhicitta, then you can gain confidence that you actually are the deity. And that then will become increasingly stable, and bodhicitta, love and faith will increase. And as they increase, afflictive emotions will decrease, and ultimately one will attain siddhis or accomplishment. And so there are the temporary or the common siddhis, and then there are the ultimate siddhis. We must have the ultimate siddhis in mind. If one just thinks about the temporary common siddhis, one may have some temporary benefit from that, but it will not lead to ultimate enlightenment. So these temporary common siddhis may lead to some accomplishment temporarily, but in the end it could lead to an obstacle if one is still under this way of self-grasping. So about the creation stage in the 100,000 songs of Milarepa, it is, if you have the English book, it is on page 376, and when you can read that in the future, it contains many blessings. So in this song, it says, if you meditate and give rise to the creation of the Yidam deity, if you habituate the deity, then the body will be a union of appearance and emptiness, and all the surroundings will be just like a rainbow. There is nothing to be identified. When there is nothing to be identified, all grasping will be exhausted. Speech, free from grasping, is a union of sound and emptiness. And then all sounds will be perceived as like an echo. When there is no distinction between good and bad, then rejection and accepting will come to an exhaustion. The mind is a union of clarity and emptiness. It is just like the luminosity of sun and moon. When there is no prejudice, when there is no bias, then self-grasping will be exhausted. So the ordinary body, speech, and mind are realized as the self-arisen Vajra body, speech, and mind. So when the three doors abide in the like original ordinary state, the mind is at ease and in accords with the Dharma, and therefore the mind is happy. And as the mind, as the Dharma becomes the path, there is great delight.
다음에 기름 먹으니까 너다운 정도 요래야지. 내가 강의에 되나다가 너다 말 제거거든요. 나는 예람이에서 나라는 것도 다 파속되는 뭐지. 양다양도 종의 나디 말에 르마지서 바차대 유리죠. 그냥 전에 공부하면 사탄을 그든 배워서 좋아요. 이럴 양 그런 것들을 이제 많이 했어요. 근데 이게 바차 이제 강하게 나디는 거야. 나디게 이제 레트 나디 그래서 깨름 됐다고 영상하고 원나 저는 깨름 되고 다음에 끝까지 저는 다다고서 말하기를 또 총고를 집었다고 졸업을 빼는 가라 사나야 깨름 됐다고 그러구나. 나가 깨름 때 주인이 사회상하도 맞지나 내 사상을 꼭 이런 말이 지서는 사실은 기다리가 살을 대화 차지요. 그래서 또 빼는 롱주 개네요. 내 현장 배경도 또 감아봐야 이런 말이 그때는 내가 강의 다음에 그때는 총권을 잘해요. 니들 라이스는 내가 도마 되면 내 사야리. 그래서 말이 미친데 빨리 그러려 때는 카보를 하고 말고 밤에 그다음에 이게 또 보면 좀 이해돼서 나 게르 똑바 로마티가 똑바 스토미요 예스 로마티가 똑바 게와는 말이에요. 게와 민송으로 이게 또 무슨 말이 됐지. 게와도 게와 이마도 로마티가 똑바 까는 매서 도리 돼 로마티가 똑바 들어오네. 제기와 디나미들이 말을 같이 디나미는 되요래. 디나미 자다가 똑바 차와서 디나미 작고요. 무슨 영이 되었더냐. 다산하다가 지금 사대기를 뒤를 소라대 사대대 사람 맞지. 세 가지를 쭉 갈아서 세 가지 발전하는 거 맞나? 그러나 매다 생기는 양대로나 생만 요렇게 매대 기타로 책고 그러고 무거운데 봐 책고 얘도 우리 밖에 하고는 그래서 아마도 보는 거 내가 하고 그래서 때문에 르건도 봐. 나도 고집됐다. 나 통과했어. 내가 무슨 라이서만 생을 잘 비워서 감이 잘 없잖아. 남자 생을 잘 내리는 서로 통을 온 말이야. 남자 생을 격게 와서 남기는 다 손을 차야 돼. 제 생을 잖아. 남자 생 되는 줄 없잖아. 이해가 없어. 어디도 우리 반항을 다 손을 차. 때는 깜빡하고 공부하고 달라고 보면 깜빡하고 마시고 르마니도 마시고 sempre 주사요 말아. 이 라기는 다 따라는 데는 계속 이런 거 보고는 야류도 좀 지나대. 또 무슨 나도 나한테 바뀌었다. 무슨 좀 뭐가 지나가다 놀겠어. 르마 가만도 말 놀지. 속다 자녀는 이제 봐매나. sempre 톡톡톡지 sempre 시트서 오게 나고가 뉴모에 맞았나 자방도 sempre 똑같이 잡혀요 뭐가 이거 톡톡톡지 무슨 용어요 그래서 톡톡 너기 가야 되시고요 있잖아 그래 빠싸 뽕 나빠 따로 이거 봐매나 때는 깨셔내고 하고 때는 녹이 참 철기와요 출발이 파쇼와요 출발이 몇번 그거 나빠다고 돼요 깨셔내고 또 세 번째로 꺾어요 때는 좋아하는 게 빠지고 말이에요 기와라 왕기와는 거는 좀 맞다고 토파내가 기와다 좋아하는 그 토파내가 영주에 이제 나요 말이에요 다 공부가 되바시는 데 깨르니까
And then about the powers of the proper creation stage practice, there is a great difference between the sutra and the tantric tradition. The tantric tradition is said to be the closer path. So if we again habituate on bodhicitta, then we will purify the mind stream. Then we have the propensities, the obscurations of the body, speech, and mind. When, for example, sometimes when we practice shamatha or calm abiding, when the mind is very still, sometimes we lose any awareness of the body. There's no more feeling of the body. But then again, in one's activities, due to the body, again, grasping arises. So the grasping to self appears due to the propensity of the body. And then due to the self-grasping, we engage in karmas, which obscure the mind. So when one habituates the creation stage again and again, one will realize that there is no self. And when that is realized, as Milarepa has said, eating food becomes a talk offering, a feast offering. Then, when you're eating food, then if you have the clear appearance of the deity, if you have not forgotten about the clear appearance of the deity, you still are the deity. And then if you are eating food, then there is no mind that thinks this is my food or I am eating the food. You are directly connected to the deity. And then you can partake of anything. If there is no fixation to good or bad taste, when there is no ordinary conception, then the partaking of food becomes just like a feast offering, if it is enjoyed free from any self-grasping. If one does not give rise to the clear visualization of the deity, if there is a self, as one is eating food, then one will think, this is my food, so this self has arisen. And that thought of a self continuously falls down into one's mind, just like snowflakes accumulating. So that is arising from ignorance. Lord Chikden Sungyan has said, others say that there are three types of conceptions: virtues, non-virtues, and neutral. Neutral are those that are neither virtues nor non-virtues. But Lord Chikden Sungyan has said this is not true. There is only virtue or non-virtue. There is no neutral, because neutral is ignorance. Out of ignorance arise the thoughts of attachment and aversion. So in the context of secret mantra of Vajrayana practice, we remain inseparable from the clear appearance of the deity, and then in the context of eating food, if we do not forget the deity, then half of the mind will eating the food, and then the other half will still remain inseparable from the clear appearance of the deity. It is then just like fire and wood have come into contact. Fire will be burned away by wood. Wood will be burned away by fire. Like in an instant, the wood will become fire. And so when we sustain mindfulness, as we, for example, are eating food, then all the grasping at the truth, at a concrete reality, will dissolve. And if you understand that, then you have understood the meaning of the secret mantra, and then great powers will come from its practice. So in order to dispel the grasping through the body, we are visualizing the form of the deity, which appears just like a rainbow in the sky within our own mind. It appears within our mind, so no one else sees this perception of our own mind. So it is like a rainbow appearing. And when we visualize the deity, then we will forget about our ordinary body, and everything that appears will appear illusionary, just like a rainbow. And when we recite the mantra, then that purifies the grasping to the speech. So when there is no grasping to the body and the speech, then there is no fixation, so there is nothing that will obscure the mind. And when one habituates that for a long time, we speak about the achievement of the rainbow body for that reason. So when one engages in this practice properly, authentically, then these are the powers that will arise from that. So the three vajras are to purify the propensities of the body, the fixation of the body as being ordinary. So one has no grasping at whatever form appears. And if one sustains this mindfulness, then any afflictive emotions or thoughts that appear will not obscure the nature of mind. And if one does not grasp at them, even if they arise, the mind will not be defiled. Then that is the union of awareness and emptiness, the mind vajra. This awareness, a union of clarity and emptiness, abiding like the expanse of space, if there is no grasping within your mind, you will understand the meaning of transcending birth and death. This is the nature of the Buddha Vajradhara. Then you understand that birth is an illusion and also death is an illusion. Then you have realized the meaning that transcends birth and death. Then there will be no fear of death, as death is just an illusion. Then one will gain mental independence. One will understand that all birth and death arising and cessation are only illusions that we have not recognized. So if one engages in the creation stage practice properly, then these are the powers that we will achieve. And so here in this one of those lines it says the mind that is a union of clarity and emptiness is like the luminosity of the sun and the moon, free from any bias. Self-grasping will come to an exhaustion. So when there is no grasping at any form, no grasping at any sound, then the mind will abide just like the luminosity of the sun and moon. And the appearing thoughts and afflictive emotions are just the temporary clouds that appear in the sky. They are adventitious, and once they are removed, then the clarity of the sun and the moon will again emerge. That is, if there is no grasping within the mind.
오마삭지 독진성 다운 냉성 제 대책을 뛰는 바로 기특게 연구를 새하게 뜨는 데들은 있나 소리는 거고요 그랬잖아 이 동시에 새우를 내놓게라 새우를 내놓게 라미는 상태는 라무사 나타 먹는 거 그랬더니 눈에 생기더라. 지금 더 체요 보여요. 대 체요 뭐가면 매니 그래도 어쨌든 탐겨 아기를 보는 거예요. 다 내던 것까지 뭐 이렇게 그때부터 무슨 통로에 보여요. 그래서 제가 공기 이런 것도 오래 이거는 더 함께 다루고 그래서 소리가 알았어.
So regarding free from any bias and the discernment of the pure view, whether the view is pure or not, Lord Jigten Songren has said not to grasp at the three great ones. That is the supreme realization. So we have the three names of the Madhyamaka, the Mahamudra, and the Dzogchen. And when we talk about them, then we use these names, these words. But when it comes down to practice, the mind must not cling to them, must not cling to these thoughts of Mahamudra, Dzogchen, or Madhyamaka. If the mind grasps at any of them, then a bias will appear within the mind. So the actual nature of the mind may be seen when all graspings are released. And sometimes that happens due to the power of the Guru's blessings and the disciples' devotion. Due to that, sometimes grasping will cease, and then in this moment there will be no thoughts of being or not being, any doubts, any hesitations, expectations, or fears. All of that will be naturally liberated. For a beginning practitioner who gives rise to devotion, that moment may last a very short time, but later when one habituates, it will extend the time. So when we talk about free from bias, it refers to free from any grasping.
제나 진짜 너무 쇼크가 말이야. 뭐야, 거기는 약과도 내가 요 말이야. 상상된 나도 너무 뭐 말하려 고 총설만 보통 거라. 총설다가 따는 게요. 마디는 이제 또 봐도 반응이 오래. 마디야 그래.
So in the practice of a beginning practitioner, there may be at times a bias. Sometimes we have the view, and then sometimes we conceptualize when we are meditating. Then we have thoughts. Now the meditation is going well, and now it is not going so well. And then thoughts of hopes and expectations will arise. But Milarepa had said, when you are meditating, then do not grasp at it being either good or bad. Sometimes good or bad thoughts will appear within the mind, but do not get attached to the good thoughts and have no aversion against the negative thoughts. In one of Gampopa's songs it is said, when you are in meditation practice and you're meditating well, sometimes the faults of mental thinking or agitation may appear. Then apply various methods, such as for like losing the clarity, mental thinking. One says the pets very loudly and cuts through. Then the mind will become very clear in an instant. Or if one becomes restless and agitated, then one looks, gazes straight into space. There's various methods. But in brief, Milarepa had said, do not grasp at the faults of either mental lack of clarity or agitation. Do not grasp at either one of them. So sometimes when we meditate, then we begin to think, this is what is happening now, a good thought appears, a bad thought appears, meditation is going well, or it's not going well. But if we are within meditation, then there's no need to conceptualize about the mental arisings. Just like a lamp, like a butter lamp, is not needed in the daylight. So one must remain free from any hopes and expectations during one's practice, free from grasping. And there's different practitioners who approach it differently through different methods. But in brief, we must dispel all the grasping of any bias. And if it is someone who has resolved the view, that person will not have any grasping. There will be no fixation thinking, no meditation is going well. And even if sometimes thoughts and afflictive emotions appear, they, like Milarepa also experienced, they appear just like a miracle, like an apparition in space, an illusory in nature, like a cloud in the sky that again will vanish if there is no grasping.
나와 함께 대다고 말아 내가 저봐 말좀 가다 대 고라니 선진으로 거 있잖아. 라노도 고통 속도 나 느끼니 와도 이제 내 사제도 고통 속도는 마대 봐야지. 이 동시에
And so also here it was said, reference to the self-arisen, the three vajras of body, speech and mind. Within the mind, when one sustains mindful awareness and there is no grasping, if there is no grasping, the mind cannot be obscured. And then just naturally, because one is endowed with Buddha nature, one will perceive all appearances as the deity and perceive all sounds to be the mantra. All rising thoughts are clear awareness. So then one will realize everything that appears, self and others, to be the nature of the deity. So then, for example, Guru Rinpoche had said, when there is no inner grasping of the mind, then the external objects that one grasps at will still not disappear, but the mind will remain clear. So things appear, but if we do not grasp at the forms and the sounds that appear, the mind will remain with great clarity. But that does not mean that the perception of forms and sounds will disappear. There still will be forms and sounds, but there is no grasping at them. And when there is no grasping at form, that is what is meant with the union of appearance and emptiness. When there is no grasping at speech, at sound, then that is the union of sound and emptiness. Once that grasping is dispelled, one has become the deity. One is non-different than the deity. And that is because from the beginning we are endowed with Buddha nature. It is just that temporarily we have impure perceptions and we are obscured by a self-grasping mind. But whenever that is released, whenever we cease the grasping to the appearances and sounds, then we will naturally attain enlightenment and for our own sake accomplish the Dharmakaya. Then one will realize that the entire universe and sentient beings have been pure from the beginning and do not transcend the enlightened body, speech, and mind.
뒷감이 강해 상하를 보면 남이라 숨이 요래. 다다 세고 참아 다가는 통보를 줄라면 지금 너블링을 넘어가 되는 거가 그래도 몇번 뒤돌아면 그걸 이제 나눠게 그걸 주고 그래. 강을 지나 제는 상하를 보면 강은 공감 상태 이전에 다 봐야 되는데 제가 그때 말아서 봤더니 이전에 다 봐야 돼. 근데 다 봐야 싫어 그랬다고. 나는 이제 그 다 봐야 맛이나. 다들 나한테 이 사를 요리 땅이 좀 요리 나도 좀 보는데 땅 필요해. 소소 좀 보도 소소 땅 필요해. 약 필요해. 오늘 대회성은 내가 만나서 돼. 하자 똑바로 쓰면 이거 똑바로 쓰면 생각 담네. 힘을 요래. 정부를 내가 생각도 똑바로 랑을 놓고 강다단 전에 해야지 그리고 때려 동안 똑바로 했더니 로드 잡고 그러면 같이 또 다들 로드 잡고 이기게 돼 또 그러겠어 자하다 대양 나와야지 그런데 또한 나와도 졸라 당세를 제 저는 니도 이제 뭐 방법을 맞춰 줬을 그래서 가다는 사마 사과는 사마 통보라 사마 통보는 야 가시가 내는 우리가 나도 제일 어려 그렇게 야 대체나 오라나 대지 좀 대지야요 말 소식 교관은 나와 안 가요. 육교에 박세를 사. 그거랑 내가 쏘는 거구나. 서 그거랑 들어와서 그런 만 상속 선배 교과 생기하게 문제 보고 사람과 사마를 공부를 콜대가 필요한 게 무엇보다 제 말을 해봐. 문제가 탐지되니 따로는 맞다고 대표하고 대표가 하나도 누가 되기를 세고래. 아까 공부하는 들어와서 스스로 들어가는 게 그거래. 나는 상속선배 교과는 사마다 문제 보래. 싸워서 사마가 따와 대다고 이제 뭐 그런 때문에 로바 뒤로도 힘들어서 틈바게 거래.
So when we engage in the creation stage practice of Vajrayana, then we must give rise to such a pure view. If one has such a pure view, it is also said, through this view, do not let slip by the perfect conduct. So you must see everything pure, and must see everything purity, but at the same time you must follow the certain traditions of a country and show great respect for them. So there's various teachings given in the secret mantra, but it comes down to the view that we perceive everything pure, and in our conduct we accord with the traditions of the certain place and show great respect. The view of the secret mantra says that our aggregates and sources and elements are pure from the beginning, and then we talk about the 5 meats and the 5 nectars. We must understand everything is pure in true nature. If one does not understand that everything is pure from the beginning, then one will have a dualistic grasping to pure and impure. So one will see one's own body. We tend to see our own body to be clean, and we think our own body is the best, and we have to cherish our body. And then we think everything else, or the other things, or the other substances, they are very dirty, and we are very clean. So this is our dualistic grasping that we just naturally have. And this dualistic grasping, that keeps the mind in bondage. That grasping of one's own body to be clean and the other to be defiled, that is the mind that we need to purify. And when we purify that mind, then we also must heed our activity. So it is said that the view must be vast like space, and the conduct must be fine as flower. We abandon grasping, and we see all people and everything to be pure, and at the same time we observe the workings of karma. We see some people may engage in the 10 non-virtuous actions, and then I must not follow along these activities. So one must not lose the conduct that is like fine as flower, which is the observance of karma. So it is said that one's outer conduct should be in accordance with the Vinaya. Then the inner mind must give rise to bodhicitta, great compassion for all sentient beings. Then secretly we hold the view of Vajrayana, and that is that we do not hold any phenomena of samsara and nirvana to be true, possessing any true existence, and continue to abide within the view like space. So one must train to practice these 3 as a union simultaneously. So the outer conduct externally accords with the Vinaya, internally we give rise to bodhicitta, and secretly we are holding the view of the secret mantra, the Vajrayana. Then we break for 20 minutes.
얘만 제가 들었으니 내가 도망을 사족생 내라고 사족 사제사 사족 받으니 핑신보리 그니 저감이야 아동이야 플라이버진 마티자 플라이버진 기마사서 받아 먹고라 아동 이반 상계에서 그거를 근데 걔는 돼야 플라타랑 이거 세고 있었나더니 플라이처럼 뽑아들어가 책을 하자 발제를 하라 인간들 쫓아가요 나더니 이런 막 비린다고 이책 잠깐 가르쳐야 돼요 책 대가 나를 책 대라더니 성등에서 사회 사망 세기니까 막라와 뭐 같이 그 내용을 정말 이서더니 막 잡았던 얘네 그래 그래 나도 인도 가래는 얘기 그 몇차고요 말을 이제 좋고요 저는 말을 비밀한데 말 사실과 말 주발시과 저는 말 비용 거리 이놈이 말 사실과 말 주발시과 말 무릎디시과 대선이 실력을
So, Madame, friends, before I've talked about the creation stage briefly and about the benefits and powers of the creation stage and how we in this lifetime can transform impure perceptions into pure perceptions. If we are able to transform our impure perceptions into pure perceptions, then we cannot be affected by any harm, spells, and so forth. If one has transformed the impure perception, then as a result of that, one will obtain the common cities, the bodhicitta and so forth, and ultimately one will attain enlightenment. Also, after one has died in a bardo state, if one does not forget the form of the Yidam deity, and one is able to remember the Yidam deity in an instant, then in the second bardo, one may attain enlightenment into the Sambhogakaya. So when we practice the creation stage, for a long time we merge our mind stream with the deity. At the same time we recite the mantra. And there is usually a certain number of mantras and measure that we must accumulate. So for example, if a mantra has 10 syllables, for each of these syllables normally we must recite 100,000 accumulations. So that would make 1,000,000. So why do we have this number of mantras that we need to accumulate? We must, when we accumulate this number, for this amount of numbers, we must abide within samadhi, single-pointedly, remaining inseparable from the clear appearance of the deity. One must remain within the visualization, single-pointedly and free from distraction. Then, due to the power of mantra, one will accomplish the dual purpose of self and others, depending on which one will be able to engage in the four enlightened activities. There are many benefits of mantra recitation. There are 9 major benefits of mantra recitation. The 3 that we need to remember are to see the mantra as a deity, to see it as an offering, and to see it as a siddhi. So it is good to understand these 3.
데려지니 네바 라들 무슨 랑게 샤다 라주 지나 라동 그 자사토 이동 신신 상태 고갈 공부도 그래 우리 바이가 기대 지화 내가 네바 쓴데 이지도 뭐 샤들 쩌아 좀 막 걸어 본 그리고 이제 샤들 생을 제일 많고도 보나 그런 사람이 작은 오바다나 조금 빼대다 많고도 라고도 빼 막고 무슨 소리가 와서 라콘데 그리고 막 홀로지 나고 가리 코라더니 저도 전에더니 따와나 되는지 누가 하장 요 지역 가서 그냥 그 사야 지금 따와 정신을 뭐 매번만 우집을 밤에 와서 뭐를 가지고 공장에 양 마로 적고요래 그냥 막또 지금 파폴라 똑같대 그냥 거기 그래서 거기 이제 아 산재 동지는 교파펄 마사시바들은 마골 때니 마골로 해보는 마더니 샤 담배 봐더니 자신이 자셔야 되더니 막 죽고요 이렇게 아버지 하는 건 교파는 거를 이거 사족 생기는 일이 그게 생긴 것을 용지 생긴 상태로 상행되기를 대nom들이 샤 담배 봐 샤제다 고속돼 홀로지는 죽어요 마사시 봐서 마사시는 마사시는 저들이 아주 바쁘는 좋고요 생기를 더 많이 장을 좋고요 내가 채도 소나 내가 좀 많이 양수는 요한거리 철 산재 통제스나 철 뉴토고요 내가 막 생각이나 좋고요 아주 바쁘나 좋고요 아주 뒤를 정치나 좋고요 이마들 마음을 뜻이 봐 소비되니 그런데 세도 사대 일미가 마음바들이 예약매가 잡혀요. 하여튼 제와시고 그것도 대신 예약매가 내다가 잡혀요. 내 차는 뒤가면더니 사타라서 예미 차는더니 무슨더니 라고는 바들 잡고요. 라고는 바로 또 통하더니 이빈이 hingi 원래 그 말이지 사람이 뭐 이문에 되네 사람은 상황이 제일성 이 시야 제일 거에 되네 이게 많이 받는 거고 요 반장한다 반장한다 녹장한다 나야 대통령이 더 되는 거예요 대통령 가리 시나요 누가 하는 거예요 그래서 그 많이 봐 강나에 맞춰 많이 받지 또 생기는데 hingi 제일 많이들이 아들아 막 무릎이 봐도 그다 참고서들 나들랑 생기야 내가 참고를 했지 나들한테 예미 통과를 해
So when we recite the mantra, then we must also focus single-pointedly on the visualization. And as we do so, we also must give rise to faith and devotion. And there's three types of faith. First there's a clear faith, and we must understand the qualities of the deity. The qualities of the deity and the Buddhas is that they possess knowledge, love, and great powers. The knowledge is the wisdom, the power to see all the suffering and negative karmas and fruitions of sentient beings. Then they have love for all sentient beings, like a mother has for a child. And the power of the deity is that when we merge our mind stream with the deity, then for our own sake we will reach the royal seat of the Dharmakaya, and for the sake of others one will lead them out from samsara. So these are the qualities, the great qualities of the deity that we must remember. And then we visualize the mantra chain with mindful awareness. So when we visualize the mantra chain, then it is just like when you're mixing a milk into a tea, then you must stir it. So in the same way, you visualize the garland of the mantra as it rotates. So first it rotates very slowly, and then it accelerates. And if you remain within the view, it will become very fast. And then if you know how to meditate on Mahamudra, then you can recite the mantra within a non-conceptual state, within Mahamudra meditation, which is the actual practice. So if you understand this, then you can recite the mantra whilst meditating in Mahamudra. And then again, when thoughts appear, you can redirect your attention again to the mantra garland. And then from the mantra garland, you can visualize light rays emanating and gathering back. As they emanate, they become an offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Then when they, just like this prayer wheel, with each rotation from the mantra chain, infinite deities and mantras shine forth and emanate like rainbows multiplying. And these become an offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The qualities lie within the mind of Bodhicitta. And then also it can accomplish, these light rays can accomplish the welfare of sentient beings. It can purify their obscurations. So then again an infinite number of deities emerges from the mantra chain and touches sentient beings and purifies their obscurations. So in this way we have the awareness that the mantra is the deity who benefits sentient beings. So when you practice in that way, it can become, the mantra recitation can become an offering, it can become a purification of obscurations of sentient beings, and a gathering of long life, merit, the power, essence of the 5 elements, and all the blessings of the Buddhas. So also you can see the mantra having the nature of blessings, offerings, or purification of obscurations. And ultimately, one will attain siddhis. Then the mantra becomes a siddhi. When we attain siddhi or accomplishment, then our own mind and the mind of the deity become inseparable. Then we will never separate again from the deity. We will never again forget the deity. It is just like when you have a friend that you love very much, then you will never forget about that friend. So in the same way, we become inseparable with the deity. And at that time, when we have become inseparable, then the actual powers of the deity will arise. And so the power, the principal power, is the altruistic mind. It is great compassion. That is the actual quality of the deity. The actual blessing, that is love and compassion. And through this accomplishment, love and compassion increases. And if love and compassion increase, also wisdom will increase. One should never practice the mantra motivated by all sorts of hopes and expectations. And one should not visualize the deity and recite the mantra with hopes and expectations. Then if one does so, in the future one may receive some harm from that. So free from any clinging attachment, one should recite the mantra motivated by a mind that feels compassion for all sentient beings. And then through that one will attain highest accomplishments. So if one has engaged in a retreat practice and then one finishes the retreat, one has come so close to the deity that one never again forgets about the deity. So ultimately we must realize the inseparable union with the deity.
마다 야절로 던져이 몸이 뭔든 저러서 다고 찾기라고 하는 마다 찾야니 다고 찾기 약이요 가야 돼요 이거 생제지 봐서 또 샘싸워는 거요 샘싸워는 라다 보는 거요 라다죠 이치 뭐리 디스르들이 막 라다고 이 게임을 하기 막 콜로트니까 막 비우신 거리 막 라데들이 맞다 많이 이쪽이 속히나 담지기 유다 이거 막 잘고 그거래 그래서 막 콜로스 좋아해 라콘데 콜로 비우 맞다고 하자 빠치고 그러니까 제도를 봐 락친제 빠치고 그래서 감독님이 이제 바로 치고 여러 마디 이나 니 르하 예수 비와 남도 찍다 좋아 나한테 필요 제출이 자 라라 동치와 럽라고 필요치와 똥을 강연되는 이제 르기와 사고발라서 보면서 르기와 늘 상근이네 하루기와 막 먼저로 꼬아야 되는 막 뭔 서로 연구를 그래서 때와던 대표선 비상들 또한 사지가 상태는 교과야 뭐요 이 샘들 샘때 힘이 봐 그리 네 샘이 본다고 그거 말이야 라하고 이선에 라를 통 이에 나기 이에면서 통하는데 그놈 제필 나한테 이거 그러래 좀 저도 뭐 상태는 내 조카가 있다고 콜로만 저거 영화 이게 좀 비와 락침보 피용치고 니 피용을 쏘나 하나 라콜 좀들 매지 몇개 보나 디스 저기서 미 생기에서 미 성수는 또 야무나 라브라 메이어 때문에 플라이어를 기하고 플라이어를 기 이제 갈래 하고 상호 tempo를 하자 피용치고 라콘데 누가 있어 누가 찍다 피용치고 해 다가 콜로 냠드한테 가고 있어요. 나한테 이 기본적으로 가서 갖고 있고요. 말 중동을 딱 꽂는 데 필요 없고. 누가 있어 누가 찍잖아요. 이게 생긴 답변을 필요고 다시 나한테 가야지 어떻게 이거 하지. 그냥 걸어 보면 돼. 소포는 우리 필요 친구들이 남들이 감성 생기 답변을 잡아봐 나게 되니 얘네가 로마 상기 마크요 대부분 세디 얘네가 로마니아는 나는 제가 상축도 셈 상바의 힘이 비를 때예요. 상바의 힘이 비를 때는 되게 크리티브 단계 두고 양보 상님이 계속 비를 때와 세상에 셈을 시와 되어 잡혀요. 돈도 사지 그때 말이야. 상바의 힘이 비를 다 혼나래.
When we recite the mantra and we visualize the deity, the visualization of the deity, the meditation is like fire, and then the mantra recitation is like wind. And when fire and the wind come together, then the wind will fan the fire, so they merge. And so then when we recite the mantra, we must also recite the mantra very clearly pronounced. It is important to say it clearly. Sometimes when many disciples gather together, then we recite the mantras in a certain melody. Some other people think that the number is more important, and if one recites the melody, it will be so slow, so one cannot accumulate a lot of mantras. But if one pronounces the mantra clearly, when one sings it in a melody slower, and it is very clear and pristine, then a single mantra recitation can actually count for 10 or more, as it is said when one recites a single mantra clearly pronounced, that is better than reciting 100 mantras that are unclear. So the mind must abide single-pointedly. And so when we recite the mantra slowly with the melody, then our mind will be very clear and it will be single-pointed. if the pronunciation is very clear, then the mind will become very clear. So the pronunciation, the clarity of the sound of the mantra is very important. And then there are many benefits of the mantra chain, and also the mantra chain which actually relates to this prayer wheel that I hold. Many beings can benefit from that, humans and non-human beings, beings with a body and beings without a body. It leaves a virtuous imprint within their minds. So the prayer wheel is very beneficial, especially for me. I'm a very sinful person. I have engaged in many non-virtuous actions, and so I've had no opportunity to go into retreat, and my opportunity to accumulate virtue with body, speech, and mind, which is the best method to accumulate virtue with body, speech, and mind, is just spinning up the prayer wheel. Then one will easily accomplish the deity. So when one spins the prayer wheel, it is an easy practice and something very meaningful, of great benefit. So with one's body, the physical virtue is that the spinning of the prayer wheel becomes just like a circumambulation, physical virtue, and then the verbal virtue is that with the prayer wheel is filled, for example, with 100,000 mantras, and with each rotation 100,000 mantras are emanating outside. So the benefit is great. And then at the same time, one gives rise to the love for sentient beings, and one wishes to benefit them. So these mantras then reach all the sentient beings as they emanate out. And in this way, it also becomes an offering to all the Buddhas. Also, it is a virtuous action of the mind, because one must sustain mindfulness as one spins the prayer wheel. If you lose your mindfulness, if you're distracted, then you will just lose the prayer wheel and fall down. So it is of great benefit to accomplish the dual purpose of self and others. That is why I brought the prayer wheel into this country. Now, but sometimes when you have time and just to rest, it would be good for you to have such a prayer wheel, because it is a very effective method to accumulate great merit with body, speech, and mind. And then moreover, it is that anyone who sees such a prayer wheel, beings with a body or without a body, they will not take rebirth in the lower realms. Ideally, they take rebirth as a human being or as a god, which is more easy to accomplish. But the seed of liberation is planted within their mind stream. So there is great merit, physical, verbal, and mental, when we spin a prayer wheel. And the prayer wheel is directly related to the mantra chain. It is a very effective way to accomplish something great through a small activity, and it benefits all sentient beings. So because I'm doing that, many people like to do what I'm doing, and so also many people have now got this prayer wheel, and they are also spinning the prayer wheel. And it is because it is of great benefit. The blessings of the prayer wheel descend down like rain falling down on all the sentient beings of the three realms of samsara. Emanations of Chenrezig and Para continuously descend down and benefit beings. So externally we say Chenrezig and Para, but really internally what that means is a mind of love, compassion, and bodhicitta that has taken root within our mind stream. And if that has taken root within our mind stream, then we will be harmonious with anyone, we will be gentle, and our mind will be peaceful and joyful. So in brief, the Buddha's teachings are only a method to increase love and compassion.
마디 다리구나. 마디 라고 맨님 받아들이. 그리고 알로지 가봐다만 이쪽에 라게 당시. 두기 녀크여래. 진짜 마디 다고 배우겠다니. 그래서 내가 마디 배우해.
So there's many great benefits of the mantra recitation, and also sometimes all the disciples meet together and they chant together, and then we make a recording on a CD, and the benefit of that will be received by all the people who have recited the mantra, which then is on the CD. We will all die, but even after we have died, for as long as the sound of the Dharma that we have created remains, it will benefit sentient beings with a body and without a body. It will cultivate bodhicitta within the mind stream and will plant the seeds of liberation. And even after we have died, we will still achieve the merit, the benefit from having chanted this mantra. And so when you are playing on this mantra at home, or you're spinning a prayer wheel, then that will temporarily repel obstacles, and also bodhicitta will arise within your mind stream. When you recite the mantra, it is like calling upon the deity, like you're making a phone call. It is a very quick connection that you establish, a very swift benefit. So there are many benefits in the mantra recitation.
이봐 도런 쇼고로 이 도런 통다기 망고요요 도런기 통다 또 강게 제시 자만 도런 좀 저렇게 운들이더니 저어서 봐 이제 과 정할 수 있는 도런 쇼고요 근데 왜 강게 되는지 저 이와게 얘는 저와게 도런 요는 책이 나와 요도 뭐지나 네 가자 집에 지와든 저한테는 뜨네 근데 나시 느끼기가 되더니 아무 띠형 거예요 느끼기가 근데 정말 느끼기가 적도고요 이거 주지 타독되니 뭐가 내말 말할까 본이 형태는 바꿔서 노름을 느끼네 제 디선한데 노린 적이요. 그때 좀 좋아하게 되는 이제 템들이 막 그렇게 좀 받자고 그러고 나중에 생긴 단계 대단히 되니 저도 좀 좋아하게 들려요. 제가 봐도니 영화 우리 저기까지 템들이 많아고 세네. 영화에 유마 라 다마데 영화 이렇게 가까이 로요리 대란 남절과 담제가 담아사지 됐어요리 남절과 담제 저안 말해서 영화 다행 지표요리 별로 제대로 공부는 좋은 힘마 제지 영화가 힘마 담제 라 이렇게 건데 공부라 영화 남아 말들이 힘을 담기는 이렇게 그냥 좋다고 좀더고요리 되게 재미 더 줄거 어디 나고 거도지 송다리 그래야지 아무 끼워안될 거야 받은 한번 좋아해 봐 나고 하고 자 손으로 어때 저 끼워안해 봐 파쳐안해 봐 유기로 말 그래서 권도 근데 뭐또 탐내 봐 탐제라 다 제가 나지 독성처럼 저도 좀에 상지도 잠깐 용어요 그래 대마제 나대기 담길라 랑게 지와 마와나 되니까 저놈 때서 사고 또게 되니다 보다 정말 뭐다 로주 탐게 좀봐 동에 내와 제대로 하자는 되어지고 농장에 열에 담길라 이 강들이 되나 저봐 처럼 요구하는 제가 때는 제대로 내가 요리 제일 차ting 시에는 난 내는 잡을 내리기 봐도 난 도사대다 직접 내 내는 친구들이 근데 내한테 차내가 되니 라왕 내도 못 차는 싫어해 싫었더니 차에서 제대로 차ting 시에는 계속만 Then Kashi the Sala Negro, to walk, Sagan, Wakam, or something with a name, the Tilly, Lenam, Bacha, Picom, Junam, Turn to me, some people suffer in your way. Kashi Sala, Dorton, Joe Wall Channel. That's the last one. No one who sent the car channel, copy of the other thing, they got they're not until probably the thing. John Gucci. You are the Jenny. They feel a partner. They feel the Lama Tuba. Lord, want to tell how much you're going for it. Oh, not if you continue to get it trivially. They feel a part, they top a child. They top a child, you will say. He told them the woman daily, Sanhab reserve, Satok Center, reserve, Saki, Tangi, Nazi, Nepatan, Charum, Charum Swan, Tangi, Papa, and Jenny. He Yoka Tangi, then Quartanti, Thornton, Thor. When you glass of what done, and he gets the dorm glory. Say, Betty, none with the wrong children, didn't want us by to return. Saikam, Chalaton, Churn, Nelson, Maid, Olson, Lona Chipaton, Chimaneva, Balamana, or Chen. Chimaneva, I tell you, the dog wouldn't have get it, Jordan from Moretti.
And then I will explain the completion stage. There are many explanations on the completion stage, but in brief, the purpose of the completion stage is to purify the propensities of the death state. So the propensities of death come to an exhaustion through the completion stage. So we have said before that the creation stage relates to the way in which we take birth. So that purifies the propensities of birth. The completion stage purifies the propensities of death. So everything will come to a dissolution in the end. All the appearances of this lifetime will dissolve. They will become out of existence. So within one single person, that is contained. So when we first understand the nature of the entire universe, everything what appears and exists, the universe and all the sentient beings, first it was created. But then in the end, it will disintegrate. It will completely come to destruction. And therefore, it is realized to lack any inherent existence from its own side. In order to realize the empty nature of everything that appears and exists, we practice a completion stage. So the external universe consists of the 5 elements. Eventually, the 5 elements will dissolve into each other, one into the other. And the inner sentient beings, their body consists of the 5 elements. Also, their body will completely go out of existence. It will dissolve, one element dissolving in the other element, slowly and gradually, and then it will come to complete destruction. So that is the nature of the 5 elements. They will dissolve into each other. And so then Padampa Sangha has said a yogi will, when a yogi dies, it doesn't really die. A yogi will embrace the death, the appearing death. And that is because one has realized deathlessness of the mind. One has accomplished the essence. It's like the elixir that of deity practice that will remain. One's aggregates have transformed into the deity. One's mind has become the nature of the 5 wisdoms. And in that way we accomplish a form like a rainbow body. So one has transcended birth and death when one practices the creation and completion stages. And then in the end, as we mentioned before, one will achieve the Vajra body, which is the union of appearance and emptiness. So first, everything arises, and then again it dissolves. But if one realizes the true nature of mind, then there is no arising and no cessation. It is just like an illusory appearance, like a rainbow that transcends birth and death. In that way, the form of the deity is established. Now, for us ordinary sentient beings, we attach to the appearing phenomenon, and after we die, depending on that, we will experience inconceivable suffering. Then gradually we will, what is called the 3 stages of appearance, appearance increasing and attainment. After transcending these, we will experience inconceivable suffering. So all those with strong self-grasping, still they may have some little merit from a past lifetime, and therefore in this lifetime they may experience some happiness. They may have a family and children and a wife and have money and some resources, and they experience great happiness. They do not experience much suffering. So there are a few people in this world that experience such happiness. Why do they experience that? It is the fruition of generosity, moral discipline, and patience. But if one attaches to these happy results, when one clings to them, the appearances of this lifetime, then one will lose one's mental independence. One is attached to this world, and one does not want even to be at another place. One wants to remain in this world. One has an attachment to this lifetime. And if one is attached to this lifetime, one will lose one's mental independence. So when one realizes that, through bodhicitta, one understands that ultimately the body of flesh, blood, and bones will gradually dissolve, and after we have died, or in the death process, the propensities of our accumulated karmas will emerge, and we will experience great suffering from these propensities, such as hunger, thirst, and so forth. So one element will dissolve into the next element. For example, some sentient beings, because of their strong attachment, they dissolve into rocks, or they dissolve into earth. Whatever their mind is attached to in the moment, that is what one will merge with. So when one liberates from that, then in order to liberate from that, one first must recognize the true nature of external universe appearing and the internal sentient beings. They have arisen, and they will come to a complete end. They are subject to complete destruction. When we recite the Lama Chöpa practice, in the beginning we visualize the creation stage, the refuge stream, and we create the universe and sentient beings, and recognize that they are pure in nature, like a pure land. And after we have visualized the refuge stream, then the light rays of bodhicitta melt the self-grasping of sentient beings, just like an ice block melting, and they become pure. And then in the end of this practice, everything dissolves. The visualization, the retinue dissolves into the principal deity, and the principal deity dissolves into one by one, gradually. That is the completion stage. And that relates directly to the moment of death, when the elements and everything dissolves one into each other. The earth dissolving into water, water dissolving into fire, and fire dissolving into wind, and then wind dissolving into consciousness. And then one will faint, one will lose mindfulness, and the white and red path will appear to one. So in order to recognize this nature at the time of death, it is necessary to practice the completion stage.
노름지 동수 철지나 네 교환을 되고요. 제일 노름나 어른 감이나 뭐 보통고요. 보통 교환하는 바에 교환하는 주인공으로 다 뭐라 문제인데 그 경우에 이게들이 뭐말을 막 노름는 거고요. 교환을 주제라 우리 강보 사지 그 종이 최근 말합니다. 그래서 세대 자주 말한다고 소나 내 담보 받고 고거 말이 강이나 말한테 사람이 오가이 속에 나나 세다 답을 여기 로자타 되는 내게 마음을 들으셔 오너 기타 마음을 느끼기 요리해서 아니 대표가이 강이 이게 사람들 세 나와 있나요? 가다 로스가 내줄 수 있게 역할과 그래서 아무튼 이 멤버들이 먹을 사람들 대표들이 오겠지 세 종강이야 남이 격조가 되시네 내가 가다 랑거지 세만 따라서 뛰는 탑 뭐리 세만 따라서 뛰는 강이 탑들이 막 뭘 마토 공나 빠지 남시 루적 보안에 루적 남시지 나지 맞제가 너희들도 뭐지 족내가 소화하고 가는 것이 남시지가 이 루적 이는 공마 라고 소화 동의가 왔으니 루적 고요리 제가 나지 요걸 끼는데 내가 바탈을 되는 로아도 가는 거 하듯이 이래요. 기와랑이 뭐지? 다른 아마도 이제 감들 다 자지가 말하는 거예요. 다니 코스는 아무 나그나 이 코스들이 이제 아무지 바깥이 돈을 쓰는 아무것도 이게 바깥이 이게 나지 좀 이제 파츠 다 자지가 말하는 거 아니 세 바다를 산이 바다를 되거든. 당연히 세 바다는 자지가 말하는 거 좋고요. 내 나중에 맞지? 다양 발동이 양자양도 쳐. 로그네. 얘는 띠네지. 아무 책도 말안 잡아도 되겠지. 얘가 뒷발 뒤나? 고라니겠지. 얘 이제 발시 발들이 다 담아서. 이제 뭘 손아야? 이제 라면 남아서 맞춰서 말하면 다양 이거 라면 보고 예 제가 나와 함께 라면 심성 오 깨는 못해 되는 길에 오 따다다 무서 느끼들 그리더니 거전 이렇게 골라서 버튼 버튼도 뭔지 되지 이게 동을 라면 생을 나오다 라면 생을 나오다 이게 말아봐 레샤 말한 대행은
And so in brief, the completion stage comes down to the purpose of death, purifying the death propensities. It relates directly into the death process. And so in order to prepare, in order to habituate, it is very beneficial and important to recognize, to apprehend the dream state. So each night when we go to sleep, it is like a completion stage. Everything dissolves. The falling asleep very closely relates to death. During that time, we may recognize our dream state, which will be beneficial after death. The Buddha had said this lifetime is like the dream of one night. A beginning practitioner may not understand that. One thinks that the dream of the night was the dream of last night, but this morning I'm back to real life, and that's real. So one doesn't see this life to be a dream. One thinks that this life, one lives for a certain lifespan, and within that lifespan one thinks about the past, so one entertains the thoughts of the past. One anticipates the future, making plans for the future. And also one has this wrong relation to the universe, thinking that the universe is so firm and stable and will always remain. That's an illusion. That's the delusion. The outer appearances may remain for a certain number of years or time, but when we believe that they actually exist from their own side substantially, then that obscures the mind. Everything that is created or consists of the external elements will eventually dissolve. It will come to a complete destruction. So first one must resolve that this lifetime It is just like a dream. Before we have obtained this precious human incarnation, this body, before we have obtained that, we were a consciousness wandering in the pardo state. And that consciousness in the pardo state still has the self-grasping mind, the 4 aggregates, the 4 names, not the 5 aggregates. So one has lost the body, one has no body, but one still has the feelings, the perceptions, the formations, and the consciousness, the 4 other aggregates. No one else can see one as one has no body, but oneself will feel and experience great suffering in this astral body. So due to the self-grasping and the habitual imprints that we have laid into our mind through the actions that we have committed, we will enter a womb anywhere in the 6 realms of samsara. So the moment we have taken birth within the womb of our mothers until we die, that is like this lifetime, which is like the dream of a single night. So once we have entered the womb of our mothers, we have fallen asleep. This whole lifetime, from birth until childhood, adulthood, aging, we experience birth, illness, aging, and death. All these sufferings that we experience, this entire lifespan, that is the dream that we dream. After we have died, we will awake from this dream as we go to the pardon. And then all the appearances of this lifetime have dissolved, and this lifetime will appear like the dream of a single night. And that dream will be over in the pardo state as we awake. And then again, we are a consciousness wandering in the pardo, seeking a body, and again we will take on another form. So in the beginning, it is important to resolve that this lifetime is just like a dream. If you believe in its reality, it will establish samsara. That must be recognized. And in order to recognize that, one contemplates that the entire universe will come to complete destruction. Even if the universe comes to destruction, the consciousness still remains, and the consciousness will again create another universe, will create another external universe and internal sentient beings, which is dreamlike in nature. So all the appearances are created by one's own mind. This creation relates to the creation stage. When we, for example, visualize the refuge tree, it's like the external universe. All of that, in reality, is nothing but the self-light of one's own mind, the arising of one's own mind. It has not been created by anything external. So first, in the beginning, one must recognize this life to be just like a dream.
예를 들면 뭐 말합니다. 노름이와 혼이나 힘들고 수가 쉽겠네. 좀 노름 공간 관계 하고 노름 공간 관계 왜나 무슨 쉐고가 내려 이 쉐고도 좀 쉐고도 가랑다나 내려오지 뭐 찾으러 내려와 하다 왔는데 빨리 되는지 하늘에 빨리 몇 가지 찍던지 가랑데 가 내가 찾으러 와. 또 노름 공간 됐다고 이래서 언제 추탐지 느끼기가 돼. 좋다 상황이 내 말이지. 너무 동시 같아. 매력 관리를 들어서 혼자 다오시래. 그래서 못하면. 근데 느끼기가 싹답대. 느끼기가 싹답네. 너 이렇게 참아 내가 하다가 규지 생기는 참 규지 생기 탐지 그래서 아콜로 줘야 다 콜로 공부해. 무슨 라마 줘보구나. 그리고 라마 예담한테 공부를 한 특히 당시 직접 콜라탄 이 혼은 또는 또지 다족들이 저거 홍어점 야명 이유나 영 야블라점 야브들이 빼디 아튼 또또는 말씀을 저거 홍어다 쳤는데 장에 매너 하다가 이제 홍어도 홍제 싸점네 그래서 되네 그리고 공유지 샵전이 야들은 홍이고 레포트를 막고 파는데 레포트 당부터지 근데 사람들은 내가 보면 요 레포트 가리 이제는 나다지 홍이 레포트 때 차고도 나다지라 이 나다지는 원래 나다지 때 차고도 가리 나는 차서 나고 그런 밥 매와 자송 상생들 뒤는 나고 땡 체험을 가면 내 también 내 근데 내 맞으면 나고 이제 밥만 줘봐 그게 그들이 자체 간지 양자를 놔도 왕서 주인고 너 남지 가야 지고 그다 리드 신고 말이야 나고 이제 밥만 줘봐 된 클라드 주인 탐나 이제 ten 가지고 리드 박하는데 가래 다 남단 무슨 때는 이제니 따로 그거래 저런 공업들이야.
And so we have the two, the dream states and the completion stage that relate to each other when we compare them. So when we practice the completion stage, we must know how to engage in this practice, the way in which we practice the completion stage. It is just like you have a mirror, and when you you breathe on the mirror with your mouth, like you make a steam on the mirror, so it becomes like foggy on the mirror, and so you cannot see anything in the mirror. And then you just leave it be and you watch it, and slowly again that will disappear, and the mirror again will become very clear. So that is how we need to practice the completion stage. Slowly it all dissolves into its center again. So one first must understand the creation, that is the entire universe, sentient beings, all phenomena of samsara and nirvana will not remain. So first that must be recognized. Then one visualizes the universe and the sentient beings, just like the whole creation of the world, and then the inner sentient beings and the deity, the principal deity and the retinue. So when we practice the Lama-Sherpa, for example, then in the end, in the completion stage, one thing dissolves into the other. So the universe dissolves into the sentient beings, and then they dissolve into the deity, the retinue, and then the retinue dissolves into the main deity, and then the deity dissolves into the heart, into the hung syllable. If there's a yap yum, there's two, the male and the female in concert, then the female concert first dissolves into the male concert, and then the male concert, the Buddha, melts from the lotus seat up and from the crown protuberance down until it has melted into the hung syllable at the heart. Then remain within that meditation on the hung syllable for a little while, and then you dissolve the hung syllable from the bottom up, so from the hook at the foot of the hung syllable, the shabchung, it dissolves up until you come to the little ball, the dot on the top. Everything dissolves into the ball, and then if you can, then you remain for a little while, single-pointedly on that, rest within the nature of your mind, and then slowly also the little ball dissolves into the very subtle nada strain, which becomes very refined and very subtle, and eventually it becomes like space, it will disappear. So this is how you should visualize, how you should practice the creation stage. And then when thoughts are completely severed, if there are no thoughts appearing within that empty state, remain within this state for however long you can. And if you cannot remain before this state is intervened by other concepts in an instant, again you must remember the deity. In an instant, again you arise as the deity. So the benefit of that is, if we arise as the deity again before thoughts have intervened, then this will gradually purify our ordinary propensities to the body. So this is how we must practice the completion stage.
Then chihuahua can be good. That's also in the garden now. The garden now, the other than the man eat yaga, need yana, Tamram need you. The Malam de Kali, Mevan over. Malam de Mevan Doni, the no one the Kalam Malanda, Manachaki or Nisatana, the Hapo, Kaji Hapo, top chocolate, not come the color. Not all that Bakala, Marana Chero, each hypocrite, the home in Adala Tanata, Sevambira, must take it everywhere. But how do you get them over? You got the Jordan of Consona, you come Chibasao, the Shibasao, the Jordan Tommy, they or Shibasao, the Shibasao, the Tambo Maram community, Maram Hako. Maram che till half of it. Three half of it. Maram chairs on it. Japan, I chop from it. When the making Japan, my bar. Oh, I go by my bar. Some none something. Some under the you study. No need to put in my bar. These families are so safe of me. 저와 찍을 때 gem마를 걸 저와 찍정래 이렇게 다 선대식인 거 정말 레프로래 뭐 자체상 또 무슨가 이거 어쨌든 간에 제대로 내니 대식 공부 아니 사자 지금 말을 레프로 뒤말이 그니 마시는 양이 세운 거래 다 제대로 못 싸우지 무슨 갖고 거래 Malam to put it. Malam have fully Kashi over it. Then he say Mata, the Ragu Pine, Yaka or Dodi de Bala, the corner. So say Mata, the Ragu Tavon is set up. Got to the Ragu Tavon is set up. Probably. Nipa Tavon is set Mata, the Yadam was large. Top chocolate king of the Latin, the Archimona. Top about king of the Pardon, that I want to do something to feel. 그래서 아니 쉽다 지금 이 두고 저 세부터 들이 남기 보도 보아서 보소나 들이 저 세부터라 근데 바람 주제 나와 야다 왔다 그래서 들이 나와라 크린다 니마 나와 찍기나 말을 받는 나와 보다니 대나지 세부대로 되지 통고요 뒷감이 사자치 보고 미탐지거나 다가면 따와서 뭐 찍고 아래 뒷감이 나쁘지 저거 말해 따와 뭐 쉬는지가 내서나 근데 다 죽을 상태 차라리 이 돌아오는 건데 빠져 있지
And so the daytime appearances relate to the creation stage, the birth. And then the night time, when we go to sleep and we dream, that relates to the death process. So when we go to sleep at night, then slowly we fall asleep, and then the dream arises, and there we have all sorts of visions in the dream, which is called the white path and the red path, and all sorts of other visions in the dream. If one has a very like a light sleep, one may apprehend the dream state, the propensities that are laid within one's mind stream. One may in an instant recognize them. Then, as the dream goes by, then the dream stops, and that when the dream stops, we fall into mindlessness, we faint, and that is just like everything has dissolved into the Hung syllable. So when one has practice, then one will not just faint, one will sustain awareness. So if one has habituated the completion stage, then one will not faint at that point, but the clear awareness, a clear knowing capacity will still remain. And through this clear knowing awareness, we first must recognize the dream state. Then when the dream stops, then we must be aware at that moment, not fainting into mindlessness. So ordinarily one would faint, but someone who is a practitioner will not faint into having no sensations. So there is no real sensations, but also there is a clear awareness at the same time. It is a clear mind that abides. That is the deep sleep, clear light. But actually one is not deeply sleeping. There is clear mindfulness. So that relates to the death process when everything dissolves. From a dream we will awake, but at the time of death everything dissolves and we come to the point where the consciousness faints. At that moment all conceptuality has ceased. All the thoughts of attachment, aversion and ignorance have ceased, and one comes to one's Buddha nature, to the mind itself. One comes to Mahamudra. So if one does not recognize this state, in a dream for example, one will fall into a deep sleep and then again awake from the dream. Then one will not recognize the luminosity, the clear light. So first one must recognize the dream state. And then it is very helpful to practice the Om Ahum Vajra recitation before you go to sleep. And then when you wake up, in the moment you wake up, you again remember the meditation, you remember the view. So ideally, upon awakening, that instant, your awareness will merge with the view. That is ideal. Or at least, if you cannot merge your awareness with the view, upon awakening, you should remember the Yidam deity in an instant, the great love of the Yidam deity. If you're able to do that and habituate, then 100% for sure you will obtain enlightenment in the Sambhogakaya, in the harder state. So it is just like a dream, but when we die, we will not wake up just like from a dream. The consciousness will eject, it will leave the body and merge with space. And then it is said when everything has ceased, the mind abides like a clear sky where there's no clouds and nothing obscuring the illumination of the sky. So it is like the appearance of a very clear, unobscured sky. And then one may see the nature of mind. If one has habituated Mahamudra, that is the view that one will recognize. And so if no other thoughts are appearing and one attains enlightenment right after death, when all the other thoughts have ceased, then one will attain enlightenment into the Dharmakaya. So these are the powers of the completion stage practice.
무슨 갖고 이거래. 그러나 람나들이 이 세마타데 아버님이 세쳤나 와도 뭐 죽거니 상제 토끼요리. 대래 이 세마타도 또봐 이 같이 전에 이거는 오 바나 이 세마타들이 나만 빙고요리. 이 남들 라 빙쳤나. 이 봐도 로건 상제요리. 이 여담을 하여 비면서 가자 이런 산적처럼 공부하나 이 세마도 생기 통질 핑고서 또 되지나 이 산적처럼 남도 그랬지 이 가보지 하는 거나 라와요 저 지와리나 라와요리야 산적처럼 또 당성 돌아서 봐도 쪼꼬르지 봐도 또 뭐지 휴가 또 그래서 설마 이바에 남들 나기는 놓고 비마사는 그렇게 쉽지요 말이. 그래서 막 40% 이렇게는 이 바로 똑같이 저지와는 라마는 그렇지. 인상하고 있지와는 저거요. 어떻게 되니? 다시는 몰라다도 오하고 도지대 바티 되는 되게 좀 모르겠지. 말한 소면에 핀다고요. 저도 팀이 이바라 핀다고요. 르비디오한테 나왔다. 저도 제가 지금 오하고 도지대 바티나 말하고는 대칭이 거리. 대칭은 되냐고 다 챙기리. 여름 챙기리 정말 챙기리. 이런 오하고 도지대 바티 나고 갖고 도지대 바티 기술 사제 탐색과 좀 보고 있는 본저서 유성제 사태 당시 이게 필요해 가려지잖아. 라지 몸이 홍좀 매봐 직접 매봐래. 대시라 가다시라 이거 라 참말 좋아해서 찍어야 돼. 자세히는 생식관에서 하고 그래. 때문에 다시 저기 얘네들 필요 없는 거야. 나 맛이 사오는 저 발사 이거 모르고 저를 저 발사 하지.
So it is more difficult to recognize the clear light of the deep sleep. But when ideally upon awakening after sleep, when you can remember, if you can remember the view, if you merge your mind with the view upon awakening, then you will attain enlightenment in the first bardo into the Dharmakaya. And on the other hand, if when you awake other thoughts will appear and you not right away merge with the view, then you should think, now I'm awake and I must remember the instruction. Then you remember the Yidam Deity. If you can remember the Yidam Deity upon awakening, then you will attain enlightenment into the Sambhogakaya in the Pardo state. And if you cannot think of the deity, if you cannot visualize the deity upon awakening, then give rise to bodhicitta. Upon awakening, things may be of benefit to sentient beings. Then you will walk the path of a bodhisattva and regain the independence of either taking birth in a pure land or again taking birth into this world. So there is 3 ways of liberation. In the first pardo, if one recognizes the clear light, one attains enlightenment into the Dharmakaya. In the second pardo, if one remembers the Yidam Deity, one attains enlightenment in the Sambhogakaya. And thirdly, if one has cultivated bodhicitta, then one becomes a Nirmanakaya manifestation. Like a guru, a spiritual master, one will have a fine rebirth. What is important is continuously, in whatever you do, you should practice the Om Ahum Vata recitation. That will also benefit you in recognizing the dream state. As for the physical virtues, it is very beneficial to spin a prayer wheel. And the Om Ahum Vata recitation you can practice in whatever you do, if you're working or whatever else you do. And if you habituate this practice, then you will be able to remember it also in your dream. And in that way, you will be able to remember the view in your dream state. Then you may be able to remember the creation stage in the dream state. That is very beneficial. Also, the Om Ahum Vata recitation contains the essence of all the mantras. The essence of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, all the Buddhas of the 3 times body, speech, and mind are contained within the Om Ahum. So there's not a single mantra of any deity that does not contain Om Ahum in some way. So Om Ahum contains everything. We also always say that within a single deity, all the other deities are contained. They may appear in different ways, in different forms, but their mind is exactly the same. So with that, I say Dashidela to you, my Dharma friends, and I ask you to forbear, be patient if I had made mistakes, and I also apologize to Garchen Rinpoche, please forbear my mistakes.